Take a look at this map of the eastern coast of Odisha, India. If we zoom in here, you'll see a dense, vein-like network of coastal waterways. This is the Bhitarkanika mangrove ecosystem, often called India's Amazon. The murky water hiding within these roots holds India's highest concentration of saltwater crocodiles. Some of the reptiles gliding off these muddy banks grow to be well over 20 feet long. Because of the dense mud and intersecting rivers, a standard jeep safari is useless here. To actually explore this environment, you have to live right on the water. For the next 2 days, my base camp is a specialized 55-foot catamaran. This diagram illustrates the core challenge of these waterways. Water levels are controlled by ocean tides. At high tide, a large boat floats safely above the riverbed. But every few hours, millions of gallons rush out. If you miscalculate and the water recedes, your boat gets wedged deep in the exposed mud. You are completely immobilized, sitting in crocodile territory, until the ocean decides to return. In a traditional forest, humans carve out dirt roads and dictate the schedule. Here, the ocean's rhythm holds absolute authority over exactly where you can travel and exactly when you have to leave. To reach the deeper parts of the jungle, we have to leave the catamaran behind and board a smaller tender boat. We are navigating into narrow creeks where thick foliage and skeletal tree trunks rise straight out of the wet earth. These trees survive by filtering out heavy salt from the ocean. They breathe through dense networks of aerial roots that push up through the suffocating mud, pulling oxygen directly from the air. This top-down animation shows what happens twice a day. As the tide rolls in, seawater pushes up the river and completely floods the root networks. What was solid, dry ground an hour ago rapidly becomes a navigable, deep-water channel. That rising water creates a temporary high-speed transit system, carrying massive marine predators straight into the deepest pockets of the forest. Saltwater crocodiles use these flooded tidal paths to swim miles inland. They navigate through the submerged trees to reach internal freshwater ponds, where they sink out of sight and wait. They are waiting for herds of spotted deer. Even though they are surrounded by millions of gallons of water, the deer need fresh water to survive, forcing them directly to the edges of these specific ponds to drink. The crocodiles have strict competition for this prey. Sanghamitra, a veteran guide here, recently tracked a massive python that successfully ambushed and swallowed a deer whole right off one of these trails. The meal was so heavy that the snake physically could not move. It lay entirely paralyzed in the exact same spot on the forest floor for 7 straight days while digesting the animal. Even walking a few dozen yards inland requires carrying a heavy wooden stick and watching every single footstep. The brush is highly populated with king cobras, which frequently sunbathe directly on the hiking paths. The interior of Bhitarkanika operates like a highly calibrated biological trap. The ocean's tides do the heavy lifting, delivering giant aquatic hunters right to the doorstep of thirsty terrestrial prey. Deep inside the forest sits the Shikar Koti. Generations ago, this specific area was maintained as a designated hunting ground for Indian royalty, to shoot wildlife as a leisure sport. Today, the local forest department has entirely reversed that objective. They patrol the area day and night, turning a former killing field into a strictly protected sanctuary. But even with massive conservation efforts, nature sets the terms. A sudden, heavy downpour rolls in, sending the deer, the snakes, and the crocodiles deep into the brush to wait it out. Most of the wildlife vanishes, but you can still spot the resilience of the ecosystem. A painted stork simply stands its ground on an exposed rock, enduring the storm until the weather clears. You can build the best catamaran and map every freshwater pond, but you cannot engineer a perfect viewing experience. A sudden rainstorm or an early tide instantly erases any schedule you had. Bhitarkanika's journey from a heavily controlled hunting estate to a thriving, unpredictable mangrove shows us the reality of a wild place. Exploring it isn't about bending the jungle to your will, but learning to respectfully submit to its rules.